the markets were clearly expecting you to raise rates at this meeting, and you didn't. Is that a failure of communications on your part, and is there a risk that you are going to become unreliable boyfriend number 2?
I mean, let me say this. First of all, I will say, to be clear, what I said was a conditional statement, and it was an important conditional statement because it made the point that, of course, if we saw inflation pressures which translated into medium-term inflation expectations, particularly, and you may observe that's why I said quite a bit about medium-term inflation expectations in the remarks I just made. It was deliberate in that sense. Then, of course, we would have to act, because that would, and it goes back to Faisal's question, that would be the point at which we would see the pressure from inflation translating into things that were not merely transient necessarily, and would cause potentially a pass-through also into wages, and a much longer term and more serious inflation problem. And frankly, if it helps, I'll say that again today, because it remains, of course, obviously true. Now, what I would say about this meeting is that I think no member of the committee, me included, has ever, and we wouldn't, of course, made any statement about, and therefore at the next meeting you can expect us to do the following. We don't make those sorts of remarks. I would also make one other observation, which I think is very interesting. By the way, I think the coverage has been very good in this respect. It was, as many of you have written in advance of today, it was a very close call. I don't think we should. Many of you wrote articles saying it's a close call, and I think it is a close call. We spent many hours. We always spend many hours, but we seem to spend even more many hours this time over it, as we should. And we are we're in a situation where the calls are close. They're quite hard, but that's just a reflection of the position we're in. So, I would cast it in that light, Larry, if you don't mind me saying so. It's not unreliable boyfriend. Well, we didn't say we were going to act at any particular meeting. But the framework that I set out, deliberately set out, remains true today. And will go on. I mean, in a sense, I was stating it, as one of my colleagues said, to be a truism.